So I wanted to do a battle analysis video for what I think is one of Fushigoro's most underrated fights in Jujutsu Kaisen. The fight I'm talking about is Fushigoro's fight versus Kamo during the Kyoto Sister School event. I think the main reasons this fight gets overlooked is because it doesn't finish, and on top of that, it gets completely overshadowed by the big fight against Hanami. Despite those things, I think this fight represents a pretty important growth point for Fushiguro. So getting into the actual fight, the majority of it takes place in episode 18, but it actually starts on episode 15. We can mostly ignore episode 15 though, because nothing really happens aside from Fushiguro trying to get Kamo to admit that he's actually trying to kill Itadori. And of course, Kamo denies it. The fight picks back up in episode 18 where we see Fushiguro dodging and weaving through Kamo's homing arrows. As a side note, I think Kamo's blood-tipped arrows are a pretty creative way for a blood manipulator to use his blood. Most characters that use their blood to fight just simply turn their blood into weapons, but Kamo is using it here to control the trajectory of his arrows. When Fushiguro decides he's had enough of these arrows, he starts batting them down and he summons his winged toads to catch them in midair. After that, there's some light taunting, but we also get to see that both of them are fairly familiar with the other's techniques. That actually sets this fight apart from some of the other fights, because aside from a few exceptions, a lot of the students were going in blind. But it makes sense that Fushiguro and Kamo would know a bit about each other's techniques because they're both from one of the three major clans. And both of them happen to be lucky enough to inherit their family's signature technique. It's kind of funny though that despite them knowing about each other's techniques, they still get caught off guard by how the techniques are used. Another side note, it was kind of interesting to hear Fushiguro say that Kamo could pass out from blood loss, because from what we see in the fight, he never uses any of his current blood. Instead of projecting the blood from his own body, he has blood bags and pre-prepared arrows with his blood already on them. Now, granted, Fushiguro didn't know these things at the time, but that just goes to show you again how little he actually knew about blood manipulation users. So back to the fight. At this point, Kamo is starting to get a little more serious, and he uses his flowing red scale technique, again to Fushiguro's surprise. This technique probably boosts Kamo's speed and strength to around Todo's level, which is obviously giving him the upper hand in the fight now. But after the initial surprise, we see Fushiguro start to hold his own in hand-to-hand combat with him. And this is where we really get to see the first point of Fushiguro's growth in this section of the fight. Thanks to his weapons training with Maki, Fushiguro is much better now at close quarters combat than he was before. Remember, when Todo first appeared, he pretty much destroyed Fushiguro. The gap between their speed and strength was so great that Fushiguro just couldn't keep up. But now, against a somewhat similar opponent, he's going toe-to-toe with him. It's kind of funny because despite most of his Shikigami being fairly weak on offense, he still mostly relied on them up to this point in fights. I think after back-to-back defeats from both Sukuna and Todo, Fushiguro knew he had to get stronger himself. Eventually, they stopped their physical battle to have somewhat of a battle of ideals. See, because of the similarities in their situations, Kamo believes that he and Fushiguro are the same. Both are expected to be the next head of their clans, but neither clan is really happy about it. Fushiguro's father, Toji, was an outcast to the Zenin clan. Kamo's mother, on the other hand, was an outsider to the clan that had an affair with his father, so she's treated horribly. But since both Fushiguro and Kamo inherited their clan's signature technique, the clans had no choice but to accept them. Here, Kamo decides to admit to Fushiguro that he actually does want to kill Itadori. But he's a bit dishonest when he tells him that it's entirely his choice to kill him. In reality, the reason he wants to do it is so he can behave the way he thinks it's expected of the next head of the clan to behave. He doesn't want to do anything that would cause them to question his position because he's doing this in order to keep his mom safe. And that's the real reason he thinks it's the right thing to kill Itadori. In contrast, Fushiguro points out how he doesn't want anything to do with the Zenin clan. He doesn't want to be the next head of the clan, and he basically has no connection to them. He goes further to explain that he doesn't even care if he's right or wrong in protecting Itadori. He just has faith in his own morality, and he chooses who he's going to protect or not. Then the fight kicks back up with Fushiguro using one of his winged toads as a distraction while he prepares to summon something much bigger. Fushiguro hypes it up, mentioning how it really burns through his cursed energy and he's only managed to tame it recently. Then he summons it and it's literally a pink elephant. At this point I'm thinking, okay, not the most aggressively inclined animal, but let's see what it can do. And the thing just blasts water out of its trunk, knocking Kamo out of the building. I kid you not, Kamo took no damage from that attack, and it only really served to set up his next attack. I'll admit, considering that was the only new Shikigami we got to see in the fight, I was a little disappointed, but at least the whole sequence was cool. Using Max Elephant to set up Nue in open space was impressive, and it displayed Fushiguro's tactical abilities. After taking hits from Nue, Kamo manages to find his second win when thinking about how he wants to protect his mom. So he throws a blood bag to disable Nue with a new technique, Crimson Binding. And it looks like the battle is just about to reach its climax when it's interrupted by Hanami and Inumaki. Unfortunately, the fight ends there, but I hope you can see why I think this fight was still important despite how short it was. We got to see the fruits of all of Fushiguro's training, and we got a little bit more insight into his ideals. See, on the surface, Fushiguro and Kamo really do seem like similar characters. Both appear to be the stoic, rational thinkers of their group with similar backstories, and they're both motivated to fight because they want to protect a family member. For Kamo, that's his mom, and for Fushiguro, that's his sister, which we start to see more and more as the series goes on. The big difference though is while Kamo decided to give in to the blood ties of his clan, Fushiguro decided to disconnect himself from the clan and walk his own path. If you like this video, hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see more battle analysis videos like this one. I'm Doc Caesar, and I hope to see you next time.